Did you see any movement in the nest?
Rand Paul is keeping an eye on the bald eagles near his home in Kentucky, but the eyes of the nation are on him.
I will speak until I can no longer speak.
Last month's historic 13-hour filibuster on the Senate floor about the president's policy on drones got everybody's attention, even his son.
I was at lunch and I was on Twitter on my phone and I saw something about it and wasn't really that surprised.
You're like, what's Dad up to?
Yeah.
But nobody should have been surprised by the senator's ability to filibuster, especially on the subject of drone attacks.
My wife will tell you I can drone on and on and on.
He's also droning on about the current state of the Republican Party.
The GOP of old has grown stale and moss-covered.
I think Rand Paul has an attitude that we haven't seen in Washington for a very, very long time.
Rand Paul can't be put in a tiny little box. For example, he differs from the traditional GOP position on war.
Part of Republicans' problems, and frankly, to tell you the truth, some in the evangelical Christian movement, I think have appeared too eager for war.
But on financial matters, Paul takes a solid conservative line against Washington's huge budget deficits and overspending.
When people come to me, they say, well, you sound like you're against all government. And I say, well, no, I'm for $2.6 trillion worth of government. That's a lot of government. That's what comes in. I'm for spending what comes in and not borrowing.
And another layer. Paul mixes his libertarian views with his Christian faith, like on marriage.
Marriage has always been a state issue. I think if you make it a federal issue, we're going to lose every state then, because I think the push is going in the opposite direction in many states.
But unlike some libertarians, Paul is not for the legalization of drugs, though he does believe that some drug sentences are too harsh. He is firmly pro-life and supports prayer in local schools.
And I think people do misinterpret the First Amendment. They think the First Amendment was somehow to say that your local school would never have a prayer in it, and I think that's wrong.
Paul is a deep thinker, his politics influenced by Austrian free market economist Friedrich von Hayek and Ayn Rand, who is considered anti-God. But ultimately, his libertarian conservative views filter through a biblical lens. He became a Christian when he was a teenager.
Yes, I do have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ.
But he tells me that much like his father, he doesn't wear it on his sleeve.
Mine has never been one that I felt like it was going to be my role to convert people.
But that doesn't mean he shies away from speaking boldly about the spiritual condition of America.
It needs a resurgence through churches, through revivals, through a spiritual cleansing of the people. It's not a politician that's going to save the country. You know, it's not any preacher who's going to save the country. It's people finding salvation. But people need to realize that that's not in politics.
His wife, Kelly, is like-minded. The Pauls are regular members of their Methodist church, and she relies deeply on her faith.
Anything can happen any day, any moment. You can lose everything except for your soul and your relationship with God. It is the only permanent thing.
Being a U.S. Senator may not be a permanent thing for Rand Paul. He'll be in New Hampshire and Iowa in the next couple months, fueling speculation that a presidential run is just around the corner.
What are some of the thoughts going through your mind in terms of how you're going to arrive at that process or at that decision?
I have to ask my wife.
Well, let's get her back. Can we get the chair?
So we did. What does the cautious-minded Kelly Paul think?
I mean, if I were spinning out, imagining what we're going to be doing exactly 2 years from now, I think I would probably not be on board.
Good to see you.
So for now, Rand Paul is content to just cruise through the McDonald's drive-thru and hit the road around America, preaching his Tea Party message to anyone who will listen. Because at his core, he's just an eye doctor from Bowling Green who thinks he just may have the right prescription for America.
Revive us again.
Amen. What about Senator Paul?
David Brody, CBN News, in Bowling Green, Kentucky.